Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the quintessential Conqueror League podcast. We got the episode, oh fuck, I think it's like 9 now of Conqueror Chronicles. I am the usual host, Phoenix. Yoshi, my co host, is unfortunately sick, but I got the honorary co host, Jukester, to come back in for the fifth time here. As always, thanks for coming, Juke. I appreciate that very
No
much.
problem.
And joining us this time we have Old Stinky. And I know you're not on a team this season, but I think you played fairly frequently, I want to say. I think I
No,
saw you two
not
seasons.
frequently. I
Not
just
frequently?
played one season. I'm just a very frequent chatter. I love this. I love the league. I'm very excited to play next season also, and I have a lot of friends who are playing currently.
Oh, okay. So you're like a frequent
I'm a
commentator
fan.
here. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
That's probably why
Super
I've
fan.
that's
AD2L super fan.
there you go. There you go. And you're planning on playing next season, you said.
Yep, yep,
Conk?
definitely. I believe. Well, we'll see how goofy the MMR gets. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay, fair enough, fair enough.
We'll see where we land.
Yeah, totally fair, totally fair. And then also joining us is going to be Spiroar from I'm assuming the now defunct Team Krill Eater. So
Absolutely deceased.
I guess there's
R.I.P.
there's been like 7 postmortems on that, so I'm pretty sure that team
Extremely dead.
is
Yeah.
extremely dead. So welcome
You guys
to the
think
pod.
it would be too far if I made a postmortem also about that team?
I
No.
think we should. You should. I think
I
you're
think the
obligated
more
to.
postmortems, the better, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually think
I'll think about it.
the whole point of this podcast was actually just to do a giant postmortem on just
Right.
Krill Eater, actually. So I hate to kind of last minute, throw that on you guys, but yeah, that's 100% what we're doing. So
2 hours earlier content.
there you go. There you go.
I read every word. I read every word of all the postmortems.
Absolutely,
We're
absolutely.
gonna break it down sentence by sentence. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. But anyway, we had a little bit of a break on the Conqueror Chronicles here. We didn't do one last week, so I just wanted to start first of all with last week's matchups because we had some interesting series that happened. Let's start with upper brackets because I think that the expected outcomes probably happened there. Um, Jukester, obviously your team, the Angels, played Zealous Gaming. If you care to elaborate a little bit on how that went for us.
I mean, I think without I'm not like throwing shade or anything. I think most people kind of predicted us to win, or maybe not predicted, but wanted us to win. And everybody
I
on
wanted you to win.
Yeah. Everybody on our roster, we went in pretty high energy and we pulled the my favorite thing to do with every stack I have, we underestimate our opponent right away.
Nice.
And then lose, and then we're like, okay, let's just not do that next time. And then
You're just grounding yourself.
yeah, we a little bit of humble is always good to have.
Mhm.
And then the next games, game 2 was a little bit more one-sided, and then game 3 felt kind of even at least, but yeah, we just kind of had to be put in our place a little bit game 1, so that way we made sure that we were leveled and came in and played our normal kind of Dota.
See, that's like that's a bit of a tragedy though, because the fact that you lost game 1 ensured that there was no shenanigans. There was no PA5s or anything
Yeah.
too spooky, right? So
Just I had to intentionally lose for my reputation. I couldn't have another game like that under my belt.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no, I do think that was probably the expected result, though. I think that I don't know. I think it was pretty unanimously agreed upon that ZG would probably lose that. In fact, I think most people probably thought it'd be a 2-0, to be honest. So I think that
Yeah.
is the expected result. I didn't catch the games of this specific series, but obviously after you knocked them down to lowers, I did catch the series that they played against Savage, where they got quite convincingly 2-0'd, I guess is what I would say about that. It was a pretty powerful statement victory for Savage. So yeah, definitely not optimal if you're a ZG fan for sure. Um, but then on the other side of the uppers, it was SMD against AE, which was a 2-1 for SMD. I'm not sure if anyone wants to comment on this series at all. I feel like that was also probably the expected result. I think most people thought SMD would win that, in spite of the fact that AE did have a pretty good group stage, obviously.
Surprised AE made it as far as they did.
Yeah, I'm curious why they get rated still, like even though they're winning games. Like personally, I think they all suck shit.
I think the
so I'm just
Malibu curse is still there, like just mentally. But like,
Yeah.
I think
I can see
that it's not like they're doing anything wrong. Like I think they're actually kind of put together. Like they put together a team, it fell apart, and they rebuilt it, and it's upper bracket. You know, like that's pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah, I think that the thing with AE is that I think a lot of their individual players have been doing very good, which is why they've kind of made it as far as they have, and I think that's why people are starting to rate them. I think Nate has done really good for them in the off lane. I think their carry's probably one of the best as well. And actually, to his credit, I think Amir's had a lot of really standout performances too. There were some series where I think he's had like 45 plus kills. So I think that's one of the reasons that they kind of where people were, maybe expecting a potential upset there, but SMD did continue
Gentleman's
with
their
that.
carry, right?
Yes, yeah.
That's the one you're talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
pretty
he's like
good.
Appa or like
Looks
Gentleman
solid.
Ambassador or something like that. Yeah, I think Amir's said a few times now that he used to be immortal. So, and people love people that used to be immortal. That's a very common theme here, Juke, with Kill
Oh
You
my
as
god.
well.
Let's talk about people who were immortal 3 years ago, but let's not talk about the people who are immortal right now. Smiley
I
face.
don't want
Yeah.
to
by the
talk
way.
about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, Spiroar. Let's talk about the people that are currently immortal right now in my
Talk about
precious Conch League. Oh boy.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think that was probably the expected result there. So yeah, and then for lower brackets, we can talk about this exciting series here. Spyro, you obviously a part of the now defunct Krill Eater. You guys did play Savage, which I believe was a 2-1 for
It was a
Savage.
2-1.
Yeah. Do
They let me get Chen game 1, and we just rolled them.
nice. That's the classic Spyro hero there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to elaborate a little bit on what you think kind of went wrong that series? I know you guys won
Yeah.
the first game, and you
Yeah.
did so pretty. I
Yeah.
felt it was pretty convincing. So I really
Yeah.
thought you guys were gonna take that.
I do mean this in like the least ego way possible. I do have 1,000 games on Chen, and I can just control the game because it's not like super high tier competitive Dota, and the hero just really like owns the game if you let it. And I think just setting my team up with a bunch of auras and just running down lanes, Lorenzo had a crazy game like in his own right. Like I mean, if you ever go back and look at this game, Lorenzo just balled out, and I think that was a
Probably
big
helps
part
to
of it
have
too.
a pos 5 going ape shit, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean, just having a bunch of auras behind an Ursa that already had a crazy lane because Lorenzo just outfarmed them. Like it was just, we just played really well, like individually. Chev had a good game. Even Clarkles and Orion popped off in a lane that like we kind of set them up for failure, and they still, like did their thing, which it is what it is. I think there's a lot to be said about putting where we put ourselves in this game. They picked Slark and Bloodseeker, and we picked Pango. Like
Yeah.
Clarkle still had a good game, and so I think game 1 went fine. I think the game 2 lost the series as a whole. Like that was the end of the series.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think game 3 mattered like relatively at all. Even if we win that game, we fall apart going into the next week. I was very frustrated that my carry, and in Calypsis's words, the one I trusted the most, which I do kind of maybe think subconsciously, at least I did, was on a cliff for 10 minutes at least. To the point where they would cancel his TP. He had to go get a drink of water because he was so frustrated. So shout out to Pause for Magnus carrying the game.
Riley went
I think-
huge. Riley went
That's
huge.
some absolute sicko shit, by the
It
way.
was
Like that's such fucking sicko play.
like, I mean, I've never seen someone win a game single-handedly as hard as he did.
That's crazy.
I think the
it
best
was-
part too is that like he was like cliffed on that one cliff by the tier 1 on Radiant side for like you said like 5-10 minutes, and then there was one fight at like the top tier 1 tower where he got cliffed again.
Again, yeah.
So dude, I was so tilted for him. I was like, oh my god.
Like I don't want to speak for all Dota players, but I feel like this is literally why we play the game for shit
Oh,
like
yeah.
this. When you're like in a game, like you play pubs for whatever reason, but like you click on certain heroes for certain reasons, and like Marcy, Magnus, Rubik are like the ones where you're like, yeah, just follow me over to the fucking cliff, buddy. See what happens. Like
Naga can do it kind of fun too.
that's
I've
why,
noticed
yeah.
that
But that's what
sometimes.
I'm saying. Like these are the moments everyone remembers, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's the
100%.
thing in hindsight, like one of the craziest series I've ever been a part of, one of the best Magnus performances I've ever seen.
Yeah,
In hindsight, super cool situation.
it is.
um,
It sucks to happen to you, of course.
Oh,
Being
yeah,
part
it
of it,
Like nobody's
being on
arguing
the
that.
team that it happened to, and admittedly the passionate emotional one
Of course.
was not beneficial.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said about the entire season's frustrations building up into someone getting cliffed and shattering our mental.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's fair.
That's what I looked like.
but just a really well played game. And then game 3 just didn't matter. I didn't really want to, like I said, I'll play Shadow Demon. I didn't really want to play Shadow Demon. I just, at some point in the season, I had tried multiple different things. I'd picked Elder Titan. I'd picked Naga. Whether it's a scrims or officials, I've picked Rubik. And I do believe that, like, from my perspective, I felt like I could have played those heroes. But I do believe my team just did not believe I could play those heroes with this team. So I kind of just accepted that I don't think my team trusts me as much as maybe the opposite was true.
Yeah, it's not a great place to be. That's not
No.
going to be.
I do felt
Not
like I
gonna
was
be
on
super
pins and
conducive.
needles at times. Like there was one game pretty early on. And this isn't like a, well, my whole season was ruined kind of thing. And I'm not like I don't think I'm a sensitive kind of individual. I take a lot of criticism and I'm okay with that. But pretty early on in the season, the tone was set in a scrim where I was playing Sven, and I don't really play pause 5 melee heroes very well. Like I play like a few of them, but Sven is not one of them. And I was just kind of trying to get used to it. And the immediate, like within 2 minutes of the lane, I was being told like, you have mana, use it. Like, and it was very passive aggressive. And I was kind of like, well, that's the tone of this season. Like it was very like,
That
and it
sucks.
was, and it's like, admittedly, like there were definitely multiple times where that happened. And, and it wasn't just like, I definitely had my fair share of issues. Like I wasn't like, woe is me, like I didn't play this season very well, and I don't think mentally I was in the right place, so I think I contributed to it. But it was a very, after like a individual team 2-0'd us, not naming any names, but a certain team 2-0'd us, and I lost my absolute shit.
One might say that you put your nutsack on the game
Yeah,
and
I
threw
put my
it.
nutsack on the game and threw it. Yeah. One of the greatest quotes of all time.
I'll never forget that. I will never forget listening to that moment. Fucking amazing.
I just demotivated. Like I just felt like Lorenzo was for sure, but I felt like no one had wanted it like that. Nobody wanted it, and I
So would
want to
you-
win.
Would you say then, just because I wanted to interject slightly there, so because
you're good.
I think most people, including me actually, to be honest with you, had your team beating Savage. To be honest, I felt like Savage before that were kind of hit or miss, to be honest. So I really expected
That
you
is
guys
how they
to win.
looked this season. Yeah. I
Yeah,
agree.
like
Yeah,
they've
they
looked like good
feast or famine a
sometimes.
bit.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I really
Yeah.
thought that you guys were gonna win, and I think that I would agree with your coach's write up that individually you guys had very good players, like very good, like very good
And-
individuals. So would you say that this season, like, Was it true then with Calypso's write up? Like, was it a personality failure? Like,
Yeah.
were things not meshing on that front, or was it like a skill thing? I don't know.
I think 99% of what Calypso's write up with says I agree with.
Hmm.
Like almost all of it. I
Now
do
for the
think there's
viewers, what's Calypsis's CV? You know, what's his MMR? What's his
he's like 7.8K. He's
okay.
he was just our coach. I've played with Calypsis for a long time. I've known
Okay.
Calypsis for like 8 years. We used to play on teams together when we were about the same MMR.
So he knows you
You
pretty
know,
well. He knows your play
yeah, we
style pretty well.
and I agree with what like a lot of what he said. I think like 99% of it I agree with. Like his assessment. Like there were a couple things that I was like, maybe, but you know, even then I wasn't like saying he's wrong. I just don't necessarily know if I agree.
You
So,
know,
Okay.
to kind of jump in on that, when Chev first met Calypsis, he was on a team with myself actually, and he was a little. He didn't like coach us or whatever, but he like joined in and like gave us some feedback here and there. So that's how Chev knew him. But the one thing that he would tell us is that he wanted a team to have a cheerleader, wanted somebody to be dedicated to like the most important role that they provide is making sure that the team is upbeat and happy and go lucky, you know, like there's no like stress in it, which is a good and a bad thing depending on how you can go about it. Um and in that season, I did have a little bit of struggles with the team because and it wasn't his fault by any means, you know, because I agree with him that you do have to have somebody that is going to be upbeat and make sure that the team doesn't become doomer, which is I said this like week 2. The Krill Eaters team was I got flame for it because I said that this team was incredibly doomer. Like anytime you ever went to go listen to the comms, there was at least one person just, oh my god, this game's so over. I don't even want to be here anymore. Like, and it
That
wasn't the
sounds
same.
so awful.
It wasn't the same player. It was always somebody different. So
Or passive
um
aggressive. Just want to
yeah, or
comment that.
passive aggressive. And so with what Calypsis or Brody, he would say that you have to have somebody that's there, you know, no guys, it's gonna be fine. Like let's get back together in that. But while you're having that, one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is you can't just, oh guys, it's gonna be fine. You have to, how is it like how are we getting back into this game? Like,
Yeah,
okay,
you
it's
need
fine, but
you need a
what's the
plan,
game
right?
plan? Because and I know this too from being on a team with Chev, and it wasn't just him, because again I saw it in, you know, from other members of the team. When you're in a tough situation and you have somebody that's just talking over everybody else, and all they're saying, guys, don't, it's okay, guys, it's okay, guys, it's okay. Like
Nobody
it gets
believes
real
them. Nobody
fucking
believes
tilting real
them.
quick. It gets real tilting real quick.
it's very
Yeah.
patronizing.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I would agree that I think that's an underrated quality for teams to have, is that having that hype man, I think, is a really big deal. Like for Scythe the last 2 seasons, that was me. Like I was always like, okay, guys, you know what? We're gonna fucking do this. But I will say, to go along with what you're saying, I would always give a reason why we could do it. Like I would say,
You got
guys,
to get
look it.
buy-in.
Yeah, I'd be like, guys, look it. It's okay. Our lanes are weak. We know our lanes are weak. We're gonna team fight. We're gonna, we're better than them. We're gonna be able to kind of take it from here. You know what I mean? No problems, no problems. But I do think that having that type of a quality in a team is really important. Otherwise, you do just get a bunch of people that might be really skilled, but maybe they're all down in the dumps. Maybe they, you know what I mean? Maybe they're all dooming a little bit, and that's not gonna be conducive to a very good outcome at all, right? So I mean, yeah, I feel really bad for Krill Eater actually in a way, because I feel like you guys should have made it further, and I also feel bad that there was like 6 postmortems and pretty much all of them were just shitting on you, Spiroar. So I do feel a little bad about that. I hope that obviously if you play next season that you kind of land on your feet, you find a better stack, or a
I'm gonna play
stack
with
that
Caleb.
maybe that you'll kind of mesh a little bit better with anyways. Do you have any plans for next season at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna play with Caleb.
Champ,
Spark.
I'm guessing.
Champ or heroic, it depends. It just
Didn't
depends.
they
Like
get shit stomped this season? Why would you play with
they
that
did.
guy?
I have like 600.
Oh, he's
games with
immortal.
Caleb.
He's immortal, dude.
He's
And
also
it's not-
immortal.
I don't think it's his fault. I don't think it's his
Okay.
fault necessarily.
Isn't
I mean,
it his team? What do you mean it's not his fault?
he may have built the team, but he definitely didn't surround himself with
The cream of the
A-rate
crop.
talent.
Yeah.
I've played seasons with Caleb and made playoffs plenty of times. I've played like
okay.
600 games with Caleb. Like he's like my most played teammate.
Okay. Oh, that sounds great. Have you played AD2L seasons with him already?
Yeah,
Yes,
I've
you
played
said?
2 or
Played-
3.
okay.
He's also a super nice guy, by the way.
Yeah,
So,
and it's funny
I've
because
only played
like,
him in pubs. I played with him
Yeah.
in pubs, and
It's funny
the
because-
comms were hit or miss personally.
yeah, to surround back to the just the doomer idea. Like when I'm playing with Caleb, I am that hype guy. I'm not. A lot of the times he's kind of the doomer.
See, that's what I
So-
was getting at.
In the environment, like, but I don't mind being that because I like Caleb and I like playing on that team.
That's good.
Because I can be that, like, hey, we can still do this. This is how we're gonna win the game. You know, like I like being that guy, and I think
Mhm.
that was crushed out of me at some point. Because I don't know. I've never been so. I just never been so frustrated. Like just overall.
Yeah, I will say that you definitely in the comm sometimes did actually genuinely sound frustrated. Like there was multiple times where I think I heard you say stuff like I'm the only one doing things, or like like we need this to happen type thing, like for
Yeah,
X
when
Y
Lorenzo
Z.
was on a cliff for 10
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
a
like
tough, that's a
it
tough
did
one to come
sound
back one for anyone.
it did sound like
a bit
genuine
of a unique-
frustration. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it was I feel I definitely feel that. I definitely feel that.
I think they call that the Savage Spirit Special. You know,
I think the way I
that's
said
what
it
they
was
do.
wrong. I think what I was trying to imply was
was correct. Yeah.
yeah.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Well, just to continue on, just for the
Mhm.
sake of
Yeah.
time here. The last matchup, we did have slow twitch muscle fibers against the spooky scary skeletons.
That was a
And
crazy upset.
You know what's crazy is that I think especially after the week before, where there was all this thing, like
Yeah.
Hexy stand-ins,
Yeah.
they won because of that. They came
They
in
did,
there
yeah,
and
they
they had their normal roster, and they kind of just owned. Like they did good. I in fact in the chat, IPA said that he was totally happy with the draft. He said that they got all the heroes they wanted, all that fun stuff. But I mean, they got 2-0 swept, so I mean, skeletons are doing something right. You know what I mean? So do you guys have any thoughts on that team? Because I feel like they're a bit of a sleeper right now. I feel like a lot of people are counting them out, but they clearly are doing something right. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, they kind of came in more.
I
They
had the
did, yeah.
luxury of facing them week 1, and we 2-0'd them. And after we 2-0'd them, the first thing I said, you can even go and check the receipts, I said that this spooky team is going to be a problem for a lot of people. And I have
What
been
about it?
gassing
What
them
was
up.
what were the characteristics that you noticed that made you say
Their mid laner is trolling the
Amy's.
entire time he's playing, and he is still dumpstering everyone. He's
Okay.
outplaying people constantly. He's always finding farm. He's always making space. The rest of the team, it's something that a lot of people, or I shouldn't say people, a lot of teams don't have, that they just listen to their captain. If Spike tells them to go somewhere, you will see immediately. Sometimes there's over rotations that happens, but for the most part, if he's like, hey, here's our next objective, you can tell exactly when he says that, because if you're looking at the map, there's going to be 3 or 4 heroes immediately at the end of that sentence moving towards that objective.
They're well
They just-
coordinated.
They're well coordinated, they play together, and they trust each other for the most part. Again, there's always going to be little exceptions with stuff, but I mean, for the most part, they're one of the teams that just trust each other more so than the other teams.
Seems like that's been huge so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially because as Clips has said in the write up, I think trusting your teammates has got to be the most important thing in Dota. Honestly, like to me, that is the single most important thing. I would 100% agree with that. You could have bad players, but if you trust them to follow like a game plan, you can go so far with that shit. It's fucking crazy. And I think
That's like
that
the opposite in pubs too, right? Like that's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no,
That's
go,
just
yeah.
like that's like the exact opposite of like what most people's Dota experiences because you're playing pubs, you're like, I don't trust any of these motherfuckers, they're all dog shit. I'm gonna carry this game, I'm gonna win it by myself. I'm gonna go farm while everybody dies. You know what I mean? Like And it, when you're playing these competitive leagues, it's a bit of a shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
To find that same success.
Yeah, for sure. And I would agree that I would also agree with what you said, that I think that Amace is like, I think I said it on this last episode too. He plays really good. It's just weird because I feel like he does weird item builds, like really strange like fucking choices on like that front. But he plays good because I remember multiple times on his puck gameplay where he got some insane 4 or 5 man coils. Like he's a good player. It's just I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of trolling that happens. I think that's a good way of putting that. But I would also say that they are a very good team unit, and I think that I would give Spike props actually because he is low rank on the calc, right? A lot of people might kind of discount that, but I think that he surrounded himself with a group of people that respect him to make the right choice and will listen to him in spite of the fact that he is lower ranked. So I think
I
that's
mean, we
really
got to point
impressive.
out he's got 22,000 games of Dota.
That's true. He is like fucking like
23
top 5.
actually.
Yeah, he's like top
Nearly
5 most played.
23,000 games
Yeah.
of Dota.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
you-
it's true. It's true. Go
I
ahead.
mean, when
So
you guys
maybe you
really
can
look
say he
at
just
it-
doesn't have Smurfs, but
when you guys like just kind of dive in a little bit and realize Amace used to be immortal like a couple years ago. So like
Yeah, like 5
you know
years
what I
ago or
mean?
something.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
like
didn't
what
we? Were we
chance does
just
anybody
saying
else
that?
have?
What does that mean? What does that even mean anymore?
Yeah.
I was
Like,
immortal in
chance
May.
does
It
any-
doesn't mean anything.
what chance does anybody else have? Because he used to be immortal.
That's true.
Like,
He used to be
it's just
immortal,
over.
guys. So it's actually just fucking so over. Like any team that has an immortal is definitely
Facts.
still in playoffs right now, 100%. So
Facts.
that's
Yep.
gotta be the case. But no, and then just to kind of end it off there too. I think that once again, I've said this before. I think Spike's drafting is underrated. I think he puts a lot of thought into that. And I think he's pretty smart on that front. So I'm really interested to see how that kind of goes for the enclosure for sure,
Yeah,
because
I
that'll
would,
be
I would mirror
interesting.
that.
Me
I know
too.
you just said you wanted to end it, but I just want to really quick. I'll give you the last word once again. I just want to really quickly say I have played recently some pubs with him, and I agree. There's a lot of like really good analysis he does during the games. Some things I don't agree with personally, but that's fine. I agree he's very underrated in like just general and has really good Dota sense.
Yeah, like he's like the type of dude where he's like, oh, if they pick A, I'll pick B, and if they pick C, I'll pick D, and like I want them to pick E
Yeah.
so I can pick F. It's like it's crazy. Like it's actually I don't know. I have I'll give him mad
It's like he's
props
some
on that.
sort of Dota doctor or something.
I know. It's like he's some type of he's got a PhD in Dota. Clearly, he's got lots of experience maybe in the game or something. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway. So to move on to last week's matchup, in particular here, the only one that really happened there is going to be the Zealous against the Spirits. I did mention it very quickly previously. Savage Spirits did win 2-0 very easily. I'm not sure if anyone else caught that
it was
series
an
at all.
absolute shit stomp.
It was
not
really
close
bad.
at
Yeah,
all.
it was really
Pretty
bad.
embarrassing second game, to be honest. First
Well,
game I missed a bit of, but
yeah, like the first game was pretty bad. Like I'll say this. I think that and I'm big ZG fan. I like those guys a lot. They're all Canadian except for Justy. I think they're actually really good guys. I will say that I think they got a little rank diffed in that series. I think it really showed that they were super low on calc. I think the offlane really struggled in those games, really bad. In particular, game 2 was not very optimal for them at all. So, unfortunate, but I think
they
that
got. I mean, that's a bit of a draft diff there. Like getting 17 tied into 18 Slark, you're just as an offlane main, like you're hating your fucking life.
oh, definitely. But I also think
I mean, his lane got sacked. Like I don't know what you want from him.
it's true, but like also like I feel like Savage's draft was also like kind of a little bit like I don't know, mid silencer. I mean, like I don't know.
Talking about
That's
the silencer here, or
I mean that's just bad. Like I'm sorry.
Why they picked Tidehunter?
I don't know. I understand they picked Tiny into the silencer. Personally, did they think it was Sand King mid? Because that's still bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But
I think
I
there's a
would
lot of
say that
problems.
I would say that after they took a game off Juke's Angels, I really was maybe I was, just a little too high on the copium there. I thought that they had a chance to kind of make that like a really interesting series, but yeah, it was unfortunately a little bit of a wipeout there. Um
Yeah.
but
Well, as a verified and certified ZG hater, publicly ZG hater, I was very happy to see their downfall. Of course, I celebrated it. Giddy
mhm,
watching them lose, of course.
of course.
But I have to say, I think I think the drafts in these two games were huge problems. I think like definitely there was some rank diff going on, but also like when you put your team, like these are your boys, right? So you're like how to play these games. You're like, okay, they're not that great at this lane, like we can sack this lane and like I'll carry on PG or I'll carry on Moist Mythical or whatever the fuck his name is in game.
Nigerian
Like you
White.
can do that. Yeah, you can do that. And like you don't need to but you don't need to like sack it this hard, right? I feel like you can give them a little bit of credit. I don't know.
Well, and just to kind of give them a little bit of credit before I move on from them,
Uh
I will say once again, they were so low on the calc rating. Okay,
sure.
well, listen to this. They were so low on the calc rating that even if they played Warrior, they would have been -4. So that's how low they
They
are on the
overperformed
calc. Yeah,
a lot. I mean,
they
they crushed
definitely,
teams that they
yeah,
shouldn't have, for sure.
they definitely overperformed. I think the fact that they made it as far as they did, I think that's
Yeah.
fucking badass. So you know what? I'll give hats off to them. And I will also say that for as much as people hate kind of how they acted, I think it's important to recognize that listen, people love the heroes, but the reason that you love the heroes and that you love the good guys is because there's bad guys as well. And
It's so true.
I think the fact that
So
they
true.
occupied that role, I think that was really underrated. I love having villains in a season, to be honest. I think that is sorely missed, and I really liked their banter. Personally, I'm not sure if anyone else has any opinions on that, but I definitely was
Oh,
a
I'm
fan
with
of
you.
that.
Big
So
fan. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I
I
love
mean,
to hate them.
you can have your quote unquote bad guy. It's whatever, but it's definitely crossing a line when you are saying, and that's not just them too, right? It's people that like interacted with them. But when you're saying like, oh, you're too busy for this, or you have too much going on and you're weak to deal with this, blah blah blah. But then you're also in the chat saying, oh yeah, I'm fucking your bitch right now. Like, what's wrong with you? Like,
that's true. That's
there was
true.
one argument that included ZG and Rhino and some other people, and there was like 4 different people that were saying they were fucking other people's bitches. And like I don't know if I heard that since like I was in middle school. So I don't know
Right.
what's happening.
It's like so unserious though. Are you saying is the implication here that people are like offended by that?
Yeah, people were like losing their cool about it.
All right,
So,
that's
like,
okay. That is
Well,
insane to
listen,
lose
you
your cool
guys,
about that. Like you said, that's middle school shit.
you guys need to not have so many bitches, bro. Like, why do you guys have so many bitches to
Get down to
get
Phoenix's
fucked?
level.
Like, come
I'm
on
just
now. Like,
glad that Krill Eater could contribute to this series. There's a Riley Magnus ban in game 1.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, honestly though, can you blame him?
yeah, you actually
I
can't.
would
You
honestly
really,
do the same
Absolutely
thing.
not.
Surprised it wasn't first man.
PG
Surprised Rubik and Willow made it through first. That's crazy.
PG's just sitting there like, guys, fuck, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't want to be on a cliff. That's why I picked TA2 just in
For
case.
real. Gotta
Don't get me
know.
on the cliff. Don't get me on the cliff, boys. Fuck it all.
They'd be cooked.
But yeah, no, and then just to kind of also go along with that, I'm curious what you guys think about Savage Spirits moving forward in particular. Because like I said, I thought they were a little bit of feast or famine. That was a good way
This
of
was
putting it.
feast. This was feast
Hot or
for sure.
cold. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely feast, definitely feast. But what do you guys think about them moving forward? Do you guys think that they're like a real title contender? Do you guys have them falling off a little bit? What are your thoughts on that?
There were
Leave that
some
on.
there were some weaknesses. There were some noticeable weaknesses in that game. When I think this is I personally think games like this are like the number one indicator of like how good a team is. And of course you can say, we're ahead so far. We're going to troll around a bit and like fuck around a bit, but this patch and like this, Dota 6 or whatever we're on where with the big map and the you can farm your way out, like This is notoriously the patch where like you can swing team fights on the high ground, and so I think that when you're in games like this, closing it out is actually like the number one indicator of how good a team is. And I think there were holes. I think they could have lost some of those fights. They were really far ahead, but that's my take on that. So I would say like they're still for me a bit of a feast or famine team. They definitely, this was like, you know, and maybe they're coming to their peak and like they're just gonna like cruise this out and like they definitely could make it. I think they could. I personally, I don't have them going all the way.
Okay, that's totally fair. I think I share your point of view, to be honest with you. And the thing that sucks is that I actually like a lot of the people on Savage, to be honest. I want them to do well, but I think that they're just, I don't know, they're just a little too inconsistent for me. That's just my
Yeah.
that's my take on that.
They're
But
really susceptible to losing to individual performances. They're like in my opinion, they're the Conqueror definition of team play. They are the Conqueror definition of let's do things very similar to SSS, right?
That
They're
makes a lot of
they're
sense.
pretty organized. They're pretty together. A lot of them have played together before. They understand kind of what they should be doing. And if you look at like me and Lorenzo in game 1, if you look at some of the group stage games that I saw from them, they're just susceptible to individually great performances that just run over them. And you know, no amount of team play could beat the fact that Lorenzo had a 10-minute battle fury, you know, or like, you know, like no amount of team play can beat a snowball, right? Of just really good lanes, really good play. And I think so, like, if they play like SSS, I think they'll have a pretty good series. If they play Animal Enclosure, it's either going to be much of what we saw with Zealous Gaming, where they just run over them, or Animal Enclosure is going to have very good
Easy, just going ape
performances.
shit.
Yeah.
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 And they're not going to be able to keep up with it.
Yeah, that's actually, I would agree with you. I think that Savage is kind of the definition of like, you know, they're like greater than the sum of their parts, you know? Where like individually maybe there are definitely better people in their roles, you know? Like there's probably better mids than Printer, there's probably better carries than Benny, but or you know, better offlaners than Frost. You know what I mean? But together when they click as a unit, they're very strong. They're very powerful. And I would agree with you actually on my personal own like when we played Savage week 1, or I think it was week 1 or week 2. We did get the 2 over them. But I would agree with you in the sense of I think we only won because I think we just outskilled them in the lanes. Like I think that's why we won. I think we kind of ran over them in like the early to mid, and they couldn't use that kind of team play to kind of recover in the late. But I think that if you let them have a relatively good lane stage, I think that they will be able to kind of use that team play aspect and carry them further. I would agree with Stinky though that I do think I don't know if I have them going all the way to the finals, and I'm not sure if I'd have them winning the finals even if they make it there personally.
They're like a third place team.
Yeah, like third or fourth.
They're like old EG, perpetually third place.
Yeah, there you go. I'm not sure if you have any takes on that, Juke, or if you want me to move on from that.
I mean, I think Savage is more of a playoff team than a regular season team, so I think that we're still like yet to see them kind of like firing on all cylinders from my past experience with them. And I mean, there's obviously a possibility that they don't make it all the way, but if they do, I wouldn't be surprised because I think all of the teams that are still left in playoffs right now are a lot of very inconsistent teams where they've had some really good highs, but their
That's a good
lows,
point.
you're like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah, that's a very good point too. Like, yeah, putting in it context of the rest of the teams. Yeah, I could, you know, coming back to that, my prediction. I agree. I could see them going all the way based on the relative like inconsistency of the rest of the. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that actually that is actually a good point. Juke's out here with like 5,000 IQ, actually. Yeah, because I mean, like, yeah, because like
Calling
they're
himself inconsistent.
they're
That's
well,
true.
it's not even that, but like next week, like they're either going against AE or Spooky, which is like some might argue that Savage is just like a better version of Spooky. So like,
Sure.
you know, I mean that's gonna be tricky, and then like AE is like, you know,
Opposite.
where they have really good players actually, but maybe their team play is not fantastic.
They've struggled a
And
bit on coordination for sure.
well, and they definitely have no true strat caller, right?
And
But
their roster also, like that's, I mean, probably a lot to do with it is because their roster's been just all over the place, right?
well, you know what, Stinky? Actually, you bringing up the roster of AE, that's just a that's what we call a segue
Yeah, I'm lining
in
it up for you,
in
but
the business. So there was a bit of drama, obviously, that happened that everyone should probably be aware of. Where AE, I'm just gonna say it how it is. I'm just gonna fucking put it on the table. AE lost to SMD, right? I'm sure all of us or a lot of us have seen the stream clip. Heartrun was very vocally upset about that at the end of game 3. There's a little bit of a tiff that happened there. And lo and behold, Hart runs out. Core's coming
his
in.
hand.
His hand. Well, yes, yeah, of course, right. So Core's in, Hart runs out. That seems to be the likely situation. In fact, it's not even just likely. The admin
On
did.
the website,
Yeah, they did make a whole announcement about it. What are you guys thinking about the roster moving forward then? I mean, obviously, we have
the
to.
betrayer core, right?
Yes, the betrayer
the
core.
betrayer.
Yeah,
Okay,
core.
right. Wanted to make
Core
sure
the
that's
betrayer.
what it-
Yeah. So I mean, like, I think moving forward, I think that this is a definite upgrade. I think. Heartrun, I think, is actually really good. I think in the series against us in particular, I think he was one of the best parts of the team. I think his Oracle was nasty, but I do think that Core is just a generally overall better player. And pretty much in majority of heroes, I would trust Core to probably be a better support than Heartrun. So I'm curious what you guys' thoughts of or thoughts are right now, at least on the roster with Core in.
Yeah, I agree.
I
Core's
think
better.
Core is an upgrade.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against Heartrun. I just think Core's slightly better.
Heartrun tilted his fucking ass off. Like,
Yeah.
Talk about
I've made the
tilters,
comment
yeah.
before that I think if you make the comment that Core is a better player, a lot of people just automatically think that okay, so Heartrun's just dog shit. And if I was gonna say that, I would say that. Trust me, okay? I'm not gonna beat around the bush because as just me stating my mind, people get confused with that. So the reason why I think Core is a better player is because he plays more heroes. So
you value that versatility a lot.
yeah, when you have him that can play, this huge abundance of heroes, especially with, as of right now, a lot of his heroes that he does like to play are pretty meta overall. So that's just something really huge to have over a hoodwink that is going right click. So, and it's worked for Heartrun so far, so like that's not much of a flame, but as a captain, if you're trying to get the best roster possible, it does look pretty nice to have something like that. And my frustration with it, and this is what I voiced to the admin team, or not the admin team, but one of the admins in DMs. I have no problem with Core playing. I mean, he stood in for my team one game. He stood in for other teams this season. Like, I have to heavily emphasize this because even though I keep saying it, people think that I have a problem with Core playing, and I do not have a problem with him playing. My frustration is that this excuse of Malibu going off on a tear, and then now they have more than half of their original roster replaced. Now the admin said that this is an exception. That's how it is. Okay, that's how it is. I'm gonna accept that and move on. But my argument before they made this was that when you team with somebody, if you don't know them, you're rolling the dice. Okay, that's just plain and simple. But then you go and you see that all these people are talking about how Malibu is unironically banned from every single league. Week after week, he's getting timed out or muted or whatever, and it didn't even take long. It took only a couple weeks into the season before he just got banned for terrorist threats. And then you're on the team like, oh wow, that shit it caught me off guard. It's like everybody's telling you about it, like your whole team. You're saying that you don't read it in the Discord and that stuff, but you're constantly in there complaining about your pubs or asking questions about other stuff. But if you're not in the Discord reading, if you are going to be naive about it or you're going to ignore the signals or whatever, that's your choice. I teamed up with Subbanir. I don't know if you guys know who Subbanir is.
Mm-hmm.
When he got
only
banned
I've
heard
from the
played him
league,
before.
when
only
he
heard
got
the
banned
legend.
from the league, we were not there like, oh please, will we be upon us? Like we need sympathy, please. No, we got that rule of the 3/5 rule was created because Subbanir got banned and we needed a new player. And then they made that rule so that that can't happen anymore. If we're going to play with somebody that delusional and psychotic, that's on us. I was naive enough. I teamed up with Rhino. I thought, okay, I can keep Subbanir reeled in, and then it took no time at all before I was like, this guy's just a loose cannon. I can't. So that's my fault. Okay, I can't go around and say, oh, I didn't know. Nobody warned me. Nobody's supposed to
Respect
warn
that
you. It's your own
perspective, yeah.
team.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
that's
see
that's
both.
my
I think I see both
frustration.
sides of it. I definitely can see why that's frustrating because you were affected specifically
Mhm.
because of that, and like now you're seeing someone else kind of like getting
Yeah.
the, they're getting like
And
they're getting grace on
I need
them when
I
you
need to
didn't, right?
specify too, like the rule wasn't stated yet. However, when we picked up this new player, it was just nonstop. People were losing their shit constantly. And it didn't matter what happened, every single week it was always brought up. And that's partially because that's what happens when you join a Rhino stack. But
Of course.
I mean, for everybody to lose their cool
is
on
AD2L.
the Rhino stack, but then like when it happens to a different team and everybody's like, guys, like you just have to let them do it. Like it's like if that's what the rule is, that's fine. But that's not really what the rule was in my interpretation of it. Now it kind of sounds like it's changing a little bit, which is fine. But from my understanding of what it was, is a little bit different than it feels like how it went down. And maybe that's on me, but that's why I was frustrated with it, is because I felt like it was kind of being told different than how it is.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think this is a really good illustration of why it's important to have like a really strong framework of rules and like so everyone just has the right expectations because it seems like this is the case where like there's multiple different sets of expectations and like the admins are trying to, they're trying to like improve the system at the same time like maintain the integrity of the league within each season and like I sympathize with how tough that is, but yeah, I can see how this is frustrating on like multiple sides. And I think this is really just like where you got to just come down on like, here's the decision, here's why, this is how it's going to be. Everyone knows what the rule is, so that nobody has bad feelings later, right? Rather than trying to like move it a little bit to make it more fair, because now you have people who were affected by the previous rule who are upset. You have people affected by the new rule who are upset. Now you're just, no one's really happy.
And
But
it's tough because, I mean, people did make up a good point. Like, okay, so what do? They replace 3 of their 5 players now?
right,
Do they just have to forfeit? And it's like that's not what I want them to have to
of course,
do.
no,
But at the same time, like if you have a rule set in stone, but as
you should
soon
follow
as
the
it would make
rules, right?
as soon as it would make somebody sad if the rule is followed, then you just break it. Then it gets to
Not
be
really a
difficult.
rule, is
And
it?
I guess, but
Well,
like
it just sounds like it's a shit rule, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Right.
it's just there's no good way to go about it, but I feel like because there's no good way to go about it, you just set up the rule and it doesn't change. You don't entertain,
I agree.
there's no like, okay, well it's up to admin discretion or whatever. If I decide to go into the conch chat right now and go on a tear, I've never been banned from the league. I've never, been in the situation where it's like, okay, we might have to mute him or something, or he needs to chill out. But if I went on there and I just go on a complete tear, and then I decide to, or I get banned, and then 2 of my players are like, oh, well, we're just going to follow him too, because that's our buddy. Like, these admins or this league is shit. The other players I have, that really does suck for them, and you'll feel bad for them. There's nothing you can do. Like, they took the gamble. They thought I was this type of person. I turned out not to be. It really does suck, but I mean, when you start making exceptions on that, then it makes stuff really, really difficult to just manage from an admin point of view, because then it's like, well, I just got unlucky. Can you help me? And then, you
Well,
just have to now.
if I can actually, because I just want to quickly jump in here, because I would say that it's weird because I didn't know the previous context of like this obviously happened to you, so I didn't realize that this happened to you and it kind of had like the like a different outcome. But I will say that from my perspective, I think that in my opinion, I think what they did is actually right this time around, because like you mentioned, I mean at the end of the day, like there's not a great outcome, right? Because I mean, no one wants a forfeit, right? Like that's like obviously
Everybody's here to play
that's
Dota.
yeah,
you
everyone's
know,
here to
yeah,
play
of
Dota.
course.
You don't want to
Right.
forfeit. This is like clearly this
More
is like
Dota's better.
more
of
Dota's
course.
better, obviously,
Yeah.
right? And I will say that this is my ultimate reality. I think that how they handled it this time around is how it should have been handled. To be honest with
I
you,
think I
think
agree.
I
Yeah.
think that how they handled it to you previously was
Right.
actually the worst way
That's
of
wrong.
dealing it. I think
Yep.
that was the worst. Like, yeah, like I think that was the wrong way of doing it. I think it was one of those situations where I think we kind of have to say like, you know what they did in the past was probably just not ideal, but I think that this is the better way because while I do agree with you that like should they have known that Malibu was a liability? Yes, they probably should have. But at the end
They
of the
definitely
day,
should have.
they definitely should have.
That's
I
not an
would say
understatement.
they definitely should have. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you cannot account on the fact that your player's going to go in there making terrorist threats and get nuked. You know what I mean?
Kind of
Like
a
that's like
extreme
not
It's a bit extreme.
that's not a reasonable expectation to set. In my opinion, that's not a reasonable expectation to set. I think it's perfectly reasonable for the admins in this situation to give an exception and say, listen, we had to ban him because he's literally threatening fucking FIs. Like we had to ban him. We're not going to count it as 3/5. I think that's actually acceptable, and I think that's the right way of dealing with it, in my
Yep.
opinion. So I think I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. The only thing in this particular instance that I actually had a bit of an issue with was that, and I actually got timed out over this. I had a 6-hour fucking timeout over this, and I think that's crazy because I just pointed out the fact that, listen, I'm okay with the replacement. Even I think it's fine that like the admins did like the exception. I think that's totally fine. I think everything's actually totally great. The only thing I did not like is this framing of, oh, it's his hand injury. Oh, that's the reason that he had to get kicked. It's
I mean, that's
he
funny.
just played this
That was really
series, you know,
entertaining.
this 3-game series. And you know, like if you look at his Dota buff, he's played so many games, but like now suddenly the next day his hand injury is so bad, I guess he's got to be kicked. It's like I just don't understand. Like, am I really a bad guy for pointing out that like let's just stop pretending here. Like I don't know. Like I said, I think
I agree.
I think
It's
everyone's seen
clearly
the video.
bullshit.
Everyone's seen the fucking stream clip.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
obvious he was not kicked for a hand injury, guys.
Of
Let's
course not.
let's
he probably,
fucking
he
make
maybe
this
has
real.
a hand injury, you know. Maybe.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. He
But
100%
like, it's
does.
not the reason.
Yeah, and like he definitely does have a hand injury. Like I'm pretty confident with that. He's told me that before. He definitely does. I just think the idea of framing it as like, oh well, he had to get kicked because of his hand injury. It's like, why not just be honest, right? Because
Yeah, I agree.
because the rules how they're set up now, right, made it so that this was a legal replacement. There was nothing illegal about this, right?
You didn't need
They were
to. Yeah.
they were allowed to replace him. Why even fucking like spin this tale of this
Yeah, you don't
hand
need the
injury?
story. You
I
need
don't
it.
understand it. Like it makes no
Yeah.
sense to me. Just like
Bit odd.
it was obviously a toxic thing. It was very
Do you guys
clearly
feel
obvious.
like it's just kind of like a save face like situation? Like, oh, if we say it was the hand, then it's like people won't think it was because he's toxic.
Maybe.
But I mean that
Maybe.
video. I mean, I was in the middle of
It was
my
pretty
fucking
clear.
game. Yeah, I was in the middle of my game, and I had 3 different people DM me this clip while I was in my series. Like that shit spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, well that's what I mean. Like that's why I don't get it. Like I don't get it. Like everyone's seen it. And number
I've
one,
only
and
heard about it. I haven't actually watched it yet.
Okay.
oh
It's-
fuck,
it's taken away. It's taken.
it's
away.
kinda
taken
like-
away. It
Oh,
was
really?
The
Oh,
clips,
it's
the
gone?
clips
Yeah,
down, the
Alright,
stream is
gone.
down, the VOD's gone. It's everything.
Listen,
it's
all
gone.
run
I'm
it-
gonna
I'll run
say.
it
That
listening,
VOD
put
gets
it back
appeared,
up.
but the one
Put it back
my
up.
moment, what the hell?
No, all I'm gonna say is that if people think your moment was bad, it was
nowhere near.
nothing. It was nothing compared to that moment.
Holy
It was
I
nothing
was
compared to it.
loving it. I was loving watching
Oh.
that series. It was very entertaining.
It was
This is
like
why I watch. This is why I'm not even playing. This is the shit why I'm watching. I love seeing people break mentally.
it was
excellent.
it was very harsh. It was very harsh. It was over the top. Multiple people said that they didn't want to play with him after that. It was so
It was like a
it
pub,
was
dude.
completely
It was insane.
It was a completely fine replacement. It was completely fine. I just really don't like this like yeah, I don't know.
The
It just
framing,
really
yeah.
bothers
yeah.
me like the
It is a
phrasing
bit
behind
weird.
it. It's just
Yeah.
weird to me. It's so weird. And then I
The
get
name
timed
name.
out and like I'm the bad guy for just pointing out the fact that it was obviously not a fucking
Sometimes you
like
just gotta
injury.
time
Like
some people out,
it's just
you know?
ridiculous to me.
Keep it
Like
spicy.
And the next
whatever.
time he goes to join a team, not that everybody in AD2L doesn't know what happened basically at this point. Like even though I didn't see it, I know what happened.
Yeah.
You know, if someone comes into AD2L fresh, doesn't like do their due
Malibu
diligence,
experience.
they might end up in that situation with Malibu too, with
Yeah.
not knowing that Heartstone is like that. So this framing definitely is save face for both the league and for the individuals,
Well,
involved.
and
And I'm
then
sure it
that
wasn't like
goes.
that every game also, just
Oh
for the
no, he
record,
wasn't.
right? Like,
And
you
I
gotta
played
be
with him
fair.
before, so it's
Yeah.
not like I
He's
played with
probably
him in the
high
winter
pressure
minutes, so,
game.
like,
He's getting
yeah.
cooked by Wild Daddy. Like, that's tilting. I get it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
He's
That
getting
is.
When you
cooked
get
by an
cooked by an
offlane
Archon,
radiance,
yeah,
it's just tough. It's
it
just
ain't.
tough.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
Doctor
100%.
Doctor, most underrated offlaner in the season, but that's fine. We'll get to that, I assume.
Who is the most underrated?
Doctor Doctor,
Doctor.
not SMD.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No,
It's his
that's totally
lanes.
fair. That's totally fair. But yeah, no, I don't know. I just wanted to quickly get some opinions
Mhm.
on the field about that because I felt that was a little weird. But then to continue with that though, here's the other thing I'm actually curious about. I really hated the continuous stand-in rule that happened last season. I'm glad that that's gone. Now the other thing that people seem to be a little bit contentious on in the conch chat, and obviously here at the Chronicles, we face these things head on because I'm curious about opinions from the field here.
And that's
But
why the viewers respect you.
well, there you go, there you go. But so the thing that people seem mostly pissy about is the fact that this seemed like a perceived upgrade, right? And now objectively it is actually because rank wise it was an upgrade, right? Now the way that it worked before with continuous stand-ins is that you couldn't go above the previous rank of the person that was on the team. Now, do you guys think that that's fine to have a upgrade that could happen? Like, are you guys a fan of that idea of this? Like, you make it to playoffs, you kick a player. It's a valid reason. In this case, it was toxic. Maybe it was a hand injury. Whatever. I'll give him, whatever it is. But they were allowed to upgrade based off of current ranks. Do you guys think that that's a good idea, or do you think that it's a bad idea?
I think it's a dangerous precedent, but at the same time, I also think it's, it's like it's hard to find exact replacement level. I think there's something to be said about the fact that man, your player sucks, with a personality wise. Like you messed up on that, and you need to take the L and take a worse player. There's definitely arguments for that. Like you put yourself in this position, it's your fault. Find a lower ranked player. But there's also something to be said about the fact that, like, from a competitive integrity standpoint, it's not like Core's coming in here and like trying to win a chip because with a team in some kind of malicious way, right? So I think there's definitely arguments for both sides. I think this has happened to me before. And I definitely used to be very adamant, and if it happened to me again, I definitely would probably have a harsher stance. So I do agree that you put yourself in that position, you should take the worst player. But thinking of it in an unbiased standpoint at the moment, I do think there's definitely both sides have some valid points.
I think there should be some wiggle room. I think that it's
Yeah.
ridiculous to have a strict, like, MMR is
Yeah.
already fluid. It doesn't really matter. Players plus or minus thousands of MMR. I think I think you don't want to have it be extreme, and so I think having some amount of like a plus or minus is a good idea, or whatever, a plus really, I
Hard
guess.
caps.
Yeah, I don't think you need to have it be so strict, but I think having a little bit of wiggle room is good, but not too much, essentially. And so you got to draw that line, and that's kind of where I think that's where the tension is.
it's okay. So before Juke, I'm gonna ask you to jump in on this too. But before you do, I just want to bring up something. So I think that the only issue I have with it is that I think okay, I don't like rules where there's a possibility that you could exploit them. And I know that a lot of rules are like that. I get that. But I think in this particular rule, right? Who's to say? And I'm not saying that they did that. I 100% don't think they did that in this instance. But let's say I make a team for Conk next season, right? Let's say we're a decent team, okay? At sign up ranks, we're a decent team. We barely make playoffs, right? We clearly have issues. Happens, right? Okay. So we kick our fifth player, and when we kick our fifth player, we all four of us say, "Oh, he was toxic." You know, yeah, like it. You know that's why we kicked him. Well, who's to say we didn't play some pubs? Practice some offline PL, right? We all tank our MMR a little bit. All of a sudden, our current ranks are a little low. Oh, looks like we can pick up a ceiling player. You know what I mean? That's
I have
the
no problem with
only
this.
that's the only issue I have with this.
I have no problem with that. I think the whole thing is ridiculous. I think if someone's going to spend that much time in the fucking this is another segue, by the way, just pay attention. Into the beer league, okay? Like we're talking about an amateur Dota league. Like if you're putting this much into, rank scum, like you're doing it wrong in the first place. I don't know. I think that okay, so let me try to be really clear here. I think that the impact that small, like a plus or minus even like 500 mmr one player in a team will have on a team this far into the season is going to be minimal. I think there are cases where it could be more impactful, like players like Hexy in mid where he makes the game about himself or whatever. I think that is like an anomaly. I think that can happen. I don't think that's the norm. I think that's the exception. And I think that this whole thing gets generally overblown when you're talking about player replacements.
Okay. You know what? I would actually probably agree with you. Actually, I for the record, I was just giving a devil's advocate. I'm not saying that that's necessarily like a reasonable expectation.
No, I think
but...
I think that's a concern a lot of people have, and I think that you're right that like you don't want to have rules that get like exploited. I think that is really important, but I think that this one in particular isn't really at risk, and I think that the amount of incentive people have to do this exploit is low because of the fact that this is it's a competitive league, of course, but it's also like this isn't life or death. I don't know. Maybe some people feel like that. I think that's kind of what I'm getting at is like, I don't know. I'm a 30-year-old guy playing a fucking Thursday night league with my boys, and like we try to beat some other people up and make them feel bad, and we feel better, but like it's not.
I'll have you know that $25 prize pool for this beer league is a very big deal.
Look, I love the stakes. I love that there's like a little bit of skin in the game because I think that makes people try harder. But at the end of the day, like I hope maybe I'm cooked. I hope people aren't deriving their entire self-worth from their performance in AD2L.
I'll have you know right now that you're definitely fucking cooked. But anyway,
anyway. I said I might be cooked.
So anyway, Juke, I wanted to throw it back to you there a little bit, just on that whole rule thing. What I kind of mentioned there. I'm not sure if you have any kind of opinions on that.
How it is, kind of like tying it together with this quote unquote beer league. I'm very much like, if there's a rule that I dislike, I will go to Subwoofer and I will not argue with him, but I will be like, hey, here's what I think, here's why I think it. Because him and I have known each other for so long and get along so well that even if I came at him with full hostility, he's gonna know that, I just, have my opinion on it, and if I'm wrong, and he'll explain to me why. And that's what I want. And when like this rule came out and they're like, Core's gonna play, this is what our decision is. He DM'd me and he's like, hey, the stuff that you told us about and how you would have handled it, we did use that and we talked about it for a while, but this is what we came up with. And I was like, okay, you know what? I put my opinion out there. I'm glad that it was heard. That it is what it is now, right? Like we move on.
Yeah.
So it's a league where, you know, you get these exceptions and so on and so forth, and that's why I consider it a beer league. Main reason is because I'm playing for fun. Okay, my MMR starts with a 5. Okay, I'm not that high skill. Okay, I'm here to play for fun. If I want to try hard, and I decide that like, okay, this is going to be more serious than it needs to be, my opinion of it is I need to be better at the game. If I'm going to take it that serious, but if people take it serious, and whether they have same MMR as me, higher, lower, there's nothing wrong with that. What you want to get out of it is what you should get out of it. However, there's this weird thing where there are people like, I play for fun, and if you play to be competitive, you're dumb and wrong and stupid.
And cringe.
And then other people are like, I play and I'm competitive, and if you're playing for fun, it's bad sportsmanship. You're ruining the league for everybody else. The admins put way more effort into this than they should. Like, they're doing it because they have fun with it, right? It is a
Yeah.
hobby, you know.
Mhm.
Now, if you want to take it more serious, that's fine. But there's these comparisons and that stuff. Like, well, what about like an amateur like softball league or whatever that, you know, they get together and they drink. These people still go out and practice also, right? You have some teams that will go out and practice. You have other teams where they will not talk to each other until game day, you know, for the whole week. That's just
Right.
that's how it is.
Yeah,
You're gonna have
that's
both sides of it.
I've literally played rec league softball, and I've done both.
yeah, that's
that's
where I
the
was
hard
hard part
cages
about
and-
this. You
It
got to
just
make room
depends
for
on your team.
everyone, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's the
and
hardest
so
part.
you know, I've gotten a lot of flack this season because I say that I just play for fun, which has never happened before, and that's just what I do. Granted, other seasons, this is the first season where I've never scrimmed. And I've had my teammates that have been like, "Hey, should we scrim?" And I'll tell them, I'm like, "Well, you guys can maybe convince me to do a 5-stack pub." Like I just don't care enough. Like, and you know, maybe my teammates will dislike me for it, maybe other people in the league will, but AD2L is not that valuable. It's there so that way I can interact with people that I enjoy interacting with, have some fun, and then move on, right? Like the next day, I kind of, you know, forget about it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll go in the Discord and see what people are talking about, but I don't care about the league again until like Wednesday or Thursday night.
Yeah, I think that this is like an interesting topic that I think me, IPA, I think you, Wid and Juke, I think Rhino did too, a couple other people. I think it's a really interesting topic because it's really like kind of like a philosophical um kind of take that people will think differently on, right? Where like to me, like I don't know. I think the league should be what you make of it, kind of like what you said. Um, for me, it's like a $25 league, bro. Like that's to me that's the definition of a beer league.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that the idea that I think I forget who it was, but someone mentioned like, oh well, beer leagues aren't serious. That's fucking not true. I'll tell you that right now. That is
Yeah.
not true. I have played in some fucking incredibly serious soccer beer leagues. Like I'm talking like people like fucking got really mad over that shit. Like and we definitely practice. That's all I'm gonna say. So the idea that's like, oh, a beer league has to be some like fucking like, I don't know, like show up drunk, fucking play, don't care win or lose. The idea that that's a beer league to me is absurd, quite frankly. I think that it's entirely what you make of it. I think that to me, what makes a beer league is the prize pool. That's just my opinion. I think if you're competing for $25,
The stakes.
you're a fucking beer league, my guy. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, you know, even like with that, like, and again, it's just kind of like what you want to get out of it, right? Like if you personally think that $25 is a beer league, that's okay. That's your choice, right? It's an opinion, you know. Nobody can take that from you, which people are trying to, which is again what makes it weird. But like a little bit of a self brag here. I played an MD2L before this last season of MD2L, and we ended up winning. And I didn't even know that the prize pool was this much until after we won. It's like $500 or something like that.
Okay, that's a pretty
And
fair
and my
prize
my
pool.
captain is
For
like,
the
okay, you
team,
know,
I assume.
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right, all right,
And
all
my
right.
captain's like, okay, what's your, you know, PayPal or whatever? What do you know, so I can get this to you. I told him, I was like, dude, I didn't pay the entrance fee. I don't want any of it. Like, I played because I wanted to have fun. He's like,
Yeah.
are you serious? And I'm like, dude, I literally showed up because I just wanted to play some Dota in a, you know, organized stack. Like, I don't care about, you know,
That's how
sure,
I
you
am
know,
too.
$100. Like, yeah, okay, that's pretty nice, but like, that's not why I was playing it, right?
Mhm.
So, but a lot of people like
what I went to school for to get a fucking job.
Yeah.
That's the money.
I
I'm
made
not
the
here for
comment
the
in
money,
AD2L.
bro.
I was like, if I really need the money, I'll just go to work. Like,
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Spiroar, I haven't heard you kind of weigh in on
Yeah,
this. Is this a topic you want to speak on here?
Yeah, I think I'm a like I like winning. That is what's
Yeah.
fun about Dota for me. Like I've
Hell
spent
yeah.
10,000 hours in Dota. I'm not, I'm not sitting here. I mean, like I can play for fun and I can, buy a Radiance on my Pause 5 Naga or what, like I can do things that I enjoy doing, right? But like from a competitive standpoint, and this is whether I was playing rec league softball or I'm just a competitive person. Like I taught myself like how to play League of Legends at a reasonably high level, so I could try to play in some leagues. Like I just want to play in competitions. And admittedly, sometimes I get a little too over serious, and I want to play with people that understand that and are okay with that. And I think that's where I failed this season. You know, and it's like someone to be okay, like, hey man, it's not the biggest deal in the world. We'll come back next week and we'll win. But like, um I just think that I play to win, and it's not that I'm like I hate everyone because we didn't win, I'll never play with you again because we suck. Like I'll play with you, and it has nothing to do with like at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with winning or losing. But in the moment, I want to win,
Of course.
So I think
yeah.
there's definitely like a difference there. Like in hindsight, at the end of the season, there are people who I've lost with that I would play with again. In the moment, I was really upset we didn't win. So like,
Yeah.
and so like, it's a difference. It's something to think about. But at the same time, I can understand how people can get turned off by that and not. But at the same time, I'm not going around saying, "Hey, you're dumb for not trying."
Yeah.
I agree with everything Rhino said in his video, just for the record.
Yeah.
100% with him.
100%.
Everyone does this.
Everything you
You're
said.
blaming me. What the fuck, dude?
Everyone does it. Yep, I know.
Jukester,
Don't worry, I
you're
know.
also
I am well aware of what I'm saying.
you're also a piece of shit, Jukester. I want you to know. I fucking hate you. Fucking everything about you is the
what-
worst.
About the competitive spirit of the league, like I think people do this, like you're reaching out into like a whole other community with the intent of competing, and that's a selection process. Like only certain people will go that far. A lot of people play Dota. Not everyone plays in a league, right? So like we're all here because we want to compete. I think that's the bare minimum, and I think when we're talking about the spectrum above that, like how far above that are you going, right?
And so here's like one thing that like I want to comment on with that too, because this is why like especially in the Rhino video and that stuff, with the comments about like the beer league and stuff like that. I show up every week, and my goal is when I load in that lobby, I want to win, right? I'm competitive as well. However, when I say that I play for fun and I don't care, when I say that, now obviously I'm not scrimming, I'm not trying these like crazy strats or whatever and that. I'm just asking my players what they want to play, and then I pick it for them. But when it comes to this, when I say that I'm just playing for fun, if I lose, I'm not getting bent out of shape about it, right? Like, yeah, it's like, oh man, I would have preferred to win, but it is what it is. There's a lot of people that, I mean, shit, they leave the Discord, they block people, they unfriend people, they go to DM a bunch of people
That's
and
extreme.
and throw shit. And you say it's extreme, but it happens so
lot.
often.
But it also is so entertaining, and that's the thing. Is like I'm always torn because I'm like I love that shit, but I'm also like you guys are insane. Like, but I love it. Like I love it, and I kind of want to like I part of me
Encourage
wants
it.
to like be that. Yeah. Just for the bit, right? Like, because it is so entertaining. I don't know. Anyway,
AD2L is
And
a fucking big deal, dude.
The biggest thing
That's
for
what
me
I'm
is like
saying, yeah, it is.
if I ever have those gripes or those complaints or whatever, I go to people that I vent to, not people who are gonna
and
go
then I
blast
write
it in
10
AD2L.
paragraphs in a PDF and I upload it into the Discord channel.
Oh, okay, all right. Whoa,
So like my
And I
post
figure out how to
mortem
convert a
wasn't
PDF into a file I can upload.
and then I call it a postmortem.
no, I mean like I vent to people. Like I vent to individuals
Yeah,
who are not gonna blast it in AD2L because I like, hey, this is frustrating me. I have to have that outlet. And I don't think like I don't say like, hey, my team sucks. Like I say like I'm frustrated about this. I'm frustrated about that. Like usually it's constructive, like venting, and I feel like I didn't have that outlet this season because
That's
No,
really measured and mature of
the
you,
people-
and I think that consider it the other way.
yeah, I try not to blast an AD2L. Like I in retrospect, even the postmortem was a little more than I would have liked to have done. So like putting myself in that position, I felt like I had to defend myself, and I maybe was a little passive aggressive in some of it. But at the same time, it's like I do try to generally keep it out of AD2L Conk chat and just any chat in general.
Oh,
I try to keep it.
you
with
also had
individual
like
people.
you also had like 5 postmortems fucking stacked
yeah.
against
Mhm.
you. So I mean, I feel like you had to kind of do something there. But
I
anyway,
didn't want to get labeled.
yeah, we're totally fair, right? Yeah, you got a season to play next season, right? So
Mhm.
totally get that. But listen, just on the interest of time here, because I know we're going a little over time here, but I really quickly wanted to get your guys' opinions on next week matchup really quick, and kind of what you guys think about the potential season winner, really fast. So I know next week, Juke, obviously you're playing SMD.
Well, that's 2 weeks out,
2
right?
weeks, but yeah.
Sorry,
yeah, we have
I
Thanksgiving
apologize.
off. Yeah.
Yep.
Next game
Apologies.
week.
Apologies. Yep. Sorry. Yeah. So next time you play, Juke, I'll say that. Next time you play, you're gonna be playing against SMD. What are you feeling about that matchup?
I really don't. It's kind of like my team probably doesn't want to hear it, but like I really don't like have anything about it. Like it's a huge gap, so I'm sure like a couple days before I'll be like, okay, I actually like have to get my shit together and start, making sure everybody's on the same page and that. But like right now, I'm just like, I'll deal with that bridge when I get there.
Okay. But this is like some confidence I'm hearing from the Angels.
I don't even think it's like a confidence thing. Like, oh, we're gonna beat them. It's just like I've already talked with my team and that, and they were like, maybe we should like try to get some pubs in or something like that. And just the idea of like playing like 5-man Dota in a scrim or a pub, I already told them I was like, I'm busy for the next couple weeks, guys. Sorry.
All right. All right. Well, fair enough. Listen.
funny.
You know what? The fact that you guys made playoffs is obviously huge already because you weren't even supposed to make playoffs, of course. So, I mean, this is impressive that you are where you are. So, totally fair. But okay, I think the other one here that's really interesting. Hopefully you guys can shed some of your insights on this. AE against the Skeletons. Where do you guys stacking up on this? Because I think
They
that
play on Tuesday, is that right?
that's
Yeah, I
right.
think
That's
so. I
right.
think
And that's
so.
coming up, and
So it's
that's
a
hot.
reschedule? Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
it
a
is.
hot series, baby. Now here's the issue.
And this is core AE, just to be clear for the
It
viewers.
Yes,
not
from
only
my
this,
understanding.
not only this, but let's make it clear for the viewers. This is core AE, and Spike said they might need a stand-in for Amace again.
Oh,
So not
no.
confirmed, but
Not
they
full strength again.
might not be full strength, and unfortunately for them, Hexy is in fact overranked, so he
Ooh.
cannot stand in this time.
Oh,
So
that's
Boy.
a tough place to be. That is
So,
a tough place to
now
be.
here's the thing. It's not guaranteed that they can't use
That
Amaze.
is
It's
not?
it's
Okay,
not
okay.
guaranteed.
It's
So
possible.
can we do a quick little duo run through here? If Amaze is playing, what do you guys think is going to happen in the series?
I think it's gonna be 2-1. I'm just not sure which way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's gonna come down to mid. I think both of those mids are so important to their teams that like I think the drafts are gonna end up 23-24 mids, and I think that's where it's gonna shake out. It's either that or like or the other way, right? Where the mids go dead even, and then it comes down to side lanes winning and support rotations to the mid. But I think that's where the crux of the game happens.
Okay.
So
That's fair.
yeah, I agree. I think I agree with the 2-1, but I don't know which way because I think it is really close. And if it's not Amaze, I think AE smokes them.
Okay. All right. Okay. Juke, what are you feeling? Because I'm getting a lot of wishy washy from these two guys here. You know,
So-
it's a little cringe to me. You know.
This weekend, I will be talking with Dr. Spike and doing the same thing I did when they played against OTF, when they played against Merrill Howard, and when they just got done with their other game. I will be DMing Spike, telling him how to win.
Okay. In
Because
this
I
case,
care-
I'll
care-
come back, become less wishy-washy. I also forgot that I played with Spike and I like him, so I think Skeletons I think Skeletons is gonna smoke him. Played with AZ in pubs. He's all right, but Spike's got him cooked. It's gonna be a 2-0.
Nepotism at its finest here on
Yeah.
Spike
Conqueror
is my
Chronicles.
I'm
boy,
objective.
so
SSS has
Not even in the
aim ace.
season, so very objective.
If SSS has aim ace, I do think team play outplays individual performance.
Good point.
Unless you're playing against Savage Spirits.
They have
Okay.
a special team.
Juke, go ahead. Sorry. Juke.
I was just gonna say that if Aim Ace is there, they're gonna win. It's gonna be
Wow.
a 2-0. If he's
Wow.
not there,
2-0.
then
Holy
yeah,
shit.
no, like the Spikes team's gonna win.
Yeah, they're gonna 2-0.
Yeah, they're gonna 2-0. If he's not there, I'm obviously gonna stand in
I
for
see.
Spike, and it's gonna go to a best of 3, and
Okay.
we're gonna win in the third game. We're gonna 2-1.
Okay. All right, and then sorry, Spiroar. I feel like I cut you off there. If you wanna.
If aim ace is not there, I do think Animal Enclosure wins. Without aim ace, I think SSS just like the fundamental strength of that team is playing together. In a lot of ways, I know they've had stand-ins before, but I do think that's what their strength is.
Even with me standing in, you think they're still gonna lose?
Maybe. I
Are
don't
you
know.
on Clockwork or
okay.
no?
Yeah, you play
I'll play-
Clockwork.
How many hook shots are you missing?
You know what?
Hey, listen, you shut up.
I
If you
think
draft them the
I'm pretty
Navy,
sure they
you'll
were cheating.
win.
I think they
If
were
you
cheating.
draft them the Navy, you win.
I think that my personal take on this, and like I don't want to offend anyone, but like I think my personal take is that if Aim Ace stays or if Aim Ace can play, I think he's better than Amir. No offense, Amir. I do think that Aim has really good game impact.
I need to watch
I think
this
if
guy
he-
play more.
I think if he builds the right items and he like is in it to win it, I think he's gonna be better than AZ. I think that's good. Now my only question mark here, and this is my once again, just being honest here, don't be offended here. I think AE's carry is significantly better than Skeleton's carry. And nothing against Russ. I'm happy that he's made it to where he is. He's a
It's
good
that
player.
gentleman guy, right?
But yeah,
he's-
I think Gentleman is like one of the best carries, and I would say that Russ is a good carry, but not one of the top tier. So I think that you're gonna get gapped on carry.
I
So
can see that.
it's really gonna come down to like, is Gentleman gonna be able to kind of like out carry the difference between Aim Ace to Amir? I think he
Have we
could.
seen him pop off though? I don't know if we've seen him pop off at
He
all.
he's popped off.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
in-
No.
in-
This
in my
is
opinion, he's
probably
popped.
just me missing those games.
Yeah, well, like from games that I've experienced firsthand, and also from games I've watched, I feel like
okay.
he's popped off. So I think that could be a really close game. I think that if Aim Ace is playing, I would probably agree. Like my heart wants to go for Skeletons 2-1. I think that
we
if
think
he's
they're
not
the
playing,
underdog. Are we on the? Do we think Skeletons is the underdog here? Is that?
well,
Sure.
I don't.
no,
Okay, 'cause I think
it seems
from
like
the
most
season,
people.
from regular season we would say that, but lately
wouldn't.
they've looked really good. Oh, okay. So that's
Like
all right.
I said, I've been a believer of them since
Right.
week 1,
Yeah,
even when we
you played
2-0'd
him right away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think that I think if Amos can play, I think it'll be a 2-1 for Skeletons just because I want to believe at this point now. I'm like fucking Fox Mulder in the X-Files, dude. Like I just want to believe at this point. Like the truth is out there. That's all I'm gonna say, right? But
Yeah.
I think that if Amos is not playing, no offense to Jukester, obviously, I do think that if he's not playing, I think A is gonna 2-0. That's my opinion. So,
Okay.
Spiroar, I cut you off there, so
You're
if
good.
you want to take it.
I think the biggest thing for me is that I've only played one of these two teams, and I played in an animal enclosure that was completely different than the one that's playing right now. So, and when I stood in for DUI, so I have very minimal experience with either of these teams, and I just in history, team play beats individual ability, and so I would like to think that SSS does win. And I also would like to really see SSS play Savage, so I'm gonna lean that way for sure.
That would be a great. Yeah, that'd be a great.
I want to watch that series.
That would be a really interesting series. Really, really interesting series. 100%. Well, listen, really quickly before I let you guys go, who's gonna win the series or this season? That's what I want to know. Juke, I've asked you like 3 times now or some shit, so I'm just gonna skip you. No offense to you. Spyro, who's gonna win?
I'm a Jukes Angels believer.
Okay, he's going with the Angel. Stinky, who's
Oh,
winning?
SMD. It's not close.
It's not even close.
It's
It's
not.
not
It's not
even
close.
close. Okay.
It's not close. been underrated the whole time. They have the advantage of they don't give a shit, and other people give a Jukes. You guys, you don't give a shit. I'll give that to you, but you give a little bit more than they do.
That might be true.
Okay.
Because
fair.
Wild Daddy does not give a fuck.
Mhm.
No, he doesn't.
Fuck. He will torpedo any game for the bit. and
He
doesn't
will
give a
go Ogre Magi
does
Radiance
not give a
Rush as a stand-in.
Mhm.
That's
you
all
can't
I'm gonna
beat
say.
that. That's the
That's
advantage.
like
That's the mental advantage that people don't understand.
that is like
They'll
a
find out.
psychological
They'll see
advantage.
I think
yeah.
somebody could beat that ogre if I remember.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
Well,
That's
they
actually
use
true.
our structure. That's the thing. You gotta handle him right. That's the secret sauce. They've got this thing. They've got the mind meld.
That's fair.
It's impressive. It's really impressive to see.
All right, that's definitely fair. That's definitely fair. Well, I appreciate all of you guys joining me here
Thanks for hosting.
once again the quintessential Conqueror podcast. But thanks very much for joining. Have a good rest of your night, and hopefully everyone enjoys.